Imagine yourself 1 year from now. You've tackled your prediabetes, you're eating well, staying active, and reducing stress. You've even made a few new friends, all because you took charge of your health and lowered your risk of type 2 diabetes. It's possible when you join In It Together SC. You can start by taking our online risk assessment. Find a coach to help you with real-life solutions. This can be you, and it can all start today. Find an online or in-person program. Visit inittogethersc.org to get a healthier head start on your future. Brought to you by the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina.
Coping with COVID and In It Together present Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina and DHEC's Division of Diabetes and Heart Disease Management.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
Happy Wellness Wednesday. I'm Tre Tailor, In It Together SC, and the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. Thank you again so much for joining us. Listen, we are going to have a great conversation today. If all the ladies are in the house, please listen, post, and share, because we're talking about women's health, mental, physical, emotional, and we have got a multi-generational panel to do just that. Nicole King is in her 20s and a community engagement coordinator for SCDHEC. Courtney Brightheart is in her 30s. She's a research and planning administrator. Dr. Nicole Edwards is a 40-year-old general practitioner here in Columbia, South Carolina. Lori Rowe is with Mota Enterprises. She said she is a proud 64-year-old woman. Also, Jen G. Mitchell is in her 50s. Hopefully, we will get to Dr. Kelly Bothelay. Hopefully, she'll join us a little bit later on. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, we look forward to having a great conversation. All of that and so much more coming up next with our Women's Health Panel on Coping with COVID, Wellness Wednesday. In It Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. First, your community announcements. We're going to go to the PSAs first, as a matter of fact. Let's go to the PSAs first, Ariel. SCDHEC has your most up-to-date list of times, dates, and location for COVID tests and vaccines and flu shots in and around South Carolina. Please visit scdhec.gov for more information. Also, COVID vaccines are being held at the VA for all vets. So if you are a veteran, please contact the VA. Kroger Pharmacies, as you just saw, is also one of the many retailers that are offering a COVID vaccinations. Please check the screen for details. CVS and the CVS is located in Target stores are also offering COVID vaccinations. Now, Brooklyn Baptist Church has reopened their vaccine clinic. They are open every single day at the West Columbia campus for walk-ins. You can see that information on the screen also. And if you are having some challenges going to get your vaccine, don't worry about it. The Comet bus system is giving free rides. Catch the Comet and get your free ride to get your COVID vaccination. If you or someone you know is having some challenges registering to get their COVID vaccination, Get Set Up is offering free assistance to seniors and anyone else having some technology challenges. Also, FEMA is continuing to offer their COVID funeral reimbursement. Contact the information on the screen for more information about that. And there are several resources also available for financial help. The South Carolina Bar Association and SC Legal Services has a toll-free number and website for rental and mortgage help. Also, Richland County Rental Assistance Program is open and still accepting applications. Visit richlandcountysc.gov for more information. Lexington County also has a bill assistance program available, as does Dominion Energy and SC Housing. They also have their bill assistance available for rent and utilities. SC Housing, additionally, is giving away some great information for frontline workers who are interested in buying a home. Again, all of this information will be scrolling at the bottom of the screen throughout the show. So please check the bottom of the screen for more details throughout the show. Coping with COVID and In It Together presents Wellness Wednesday, every Wednesday right here. It's from the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina. Listen, we're actually streaming live on the In It Together Facebook page. Go over there, hit like and share and follow. And not only you can check out Coping with COVID every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can also get all kinds of great resources on pre-diabetes programs, health, fitness, and wellness. So check out the website and also the In It Together Facebook page. We're also streaming live on the Tailor Made production page on Facebook. That's the home of Coping with COVID. Again, please go over there, hit like and share and follow. You can also watch Coping with COVID every Wednesday and get all of your COVID-related updates, including past shows. Now, we also have a presence on YouTube. We are streaming live on YouTube. As a matter of fact, want to thank everyone for watching us on YouTube. And please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We also have a presence on Instagram and also on Twitter. It's Women's Health Awareness Month, and we are talking to a diverse panel of women about mental, physical, and emotional issues and how to deal with them. Nicole King is in her 20s and a community engagement coordinator for SCDHEC. Courtney Brightheart is in her 30s. She's a research and planning administrator. Dr. Nicole Edwards is a 42-year-old, a general practitioner physician here in Columbia, South Carolina. Also, Jen G. Mitchell is in her 50s. She's also a healthcare professional. And also, Lori Rowe is a 64-year-old Latina that works at Mota Enterprises. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So listen, I want to start at the beginning, which would start with you, Nikki. So,
of course.
Yeah, right now, what does your physical health look like? Are you exercising? Are you even conscientious about the fact that you're going to get to our age at some point in your life?
Thankfully, yes, I am. I was a few years back struggling with making sure I was getting enough exercise, and I ended up becoming a fitness instructor, which kind of keeps me in line.
Yeah.
So yes.
Courtney, what about you? You're in your 30s. When you were 20, were you physically active and really conscientious about being physically active?
No, actually, I was 60 pounds heavier in my 20s. And so I've lost 60 pounds since then. Now I try to run up to 4 to 7 miles every Saturday. And I'm also a half marathoner. So,
wow.
Yeah.
What happened in your life and when that you realized I need to change?
Well, sometimes we have a tendency of avoiding the scale whenever we're at the doctor's office. And quite frankly, I thought the scale was broken. I wanted a second opinion. And, just a conversation with my gynecologist, she simply said that there are some things that you have going on that could easily be corrected if you were to change your diet and start exercising more. So,
yeah, girl, how many of us have broken scale syndrome? That's a common condition, I think, with women. Nicole, I'm gonna head over to you because I know you personally that you can relate to Courtney because you had a weight issue. What was it as a physician that made you recognize I need to change my eating habits?
A couple of things, Trey. And listen, this is what I tell people all the time. It's not that I had a weight issue. Yes, I have lost almost 150 pounds, but I still have a weight issue because I'm striving every day to become my healthiest self.
Yeah.
But what did it for me was two things. One, I could no longer walk up the stairs to my house. At my biggest, I was 373 pounds. And walking up the stairs to my house hurt my knees, period. It hurt. And so I said, something's got to change. And then I didn't like to be that physician who I'm telling all my patients, you need to get healthy, you need to lose weight, you need to exercise, you need to be healthy. And not to say, too, that you can't be larger or plus size and still be healthy. But I wasn't. Okay, I wasn't one of those fat, fit people. I was not healthy at all. But I knew I needed to do this so that I could be a better example for my patients and let them know that it can be done. It's long and a hard process, but it can be done.
Yeah. Did you grow up heavy?
Back and forth, but yes, for the most part, I did.
Yeah. And when you were your 20s, like Nikki, and I don't know, I can hear a little bit of feedback from somebody. I'm not sure who it is, but when you were in your 20s, like Nikki, did you think about it?
Absolutely. So here's the thing: when I, as a plus size person in my 20s and in my 30s, I hated it when I would go in the room and the first thing I would do was scan the room and see, am I the biggest one in the room? Right. And so that gets to be, yes, you think about it all the time. The funny thing is, I even look back to, like, I was the plus size cheerleader. I was probably one of the first ones I was a size 14, 16 when I was a cheerleader in high school. And I look back now on my high school and I see that there's other plus size cheerleaders. And I'm like, yay, go you can do it, when everybody else was a size 0 and a size 2. But yes, you very much are aware of it, and it's always kind of in your mind and you're always thinking of it. And the thing is, funny now, I look back then, I'm like, I wasn't even that big. I mean, compared to everyone else I was. I'm like, I was kind of rocking it, but it's all good.
You know what? You make such a good point, and I think we'll get to this when we start talking about mental and emotional health. And I know I'm preaching to the choir. I think we beat ourselves up more than anybody else does. I mean, I tell people now I was overweight, and probably at the largest size I wore was like a 14. And people say, "Oh, you weren't fat." No, I was fat to me, but to maybe somebody else, I wasn't, compared to what I'm wearing now. No, but so it's so much about perspective. Jen, take yourself off mute and tell me what your relationship with weight was from your 20s to now.
Okay. Thank you. So basically, I've always been into exercising. Of course, in my 20s, I was a lot smaller. But as I went from my 20s to 30s, and at that point in time, I got married, I had children, my weight did shift a bit, but I was always exercising. So because of that, I always maintained a relatively good weight for my frame. But then fast forward, as I moved into my 50s, things did change a bit. Also, at the time of COVID, when everything shut down, I was eating candies, cookies, and cakes. I would bake a cake almost every single day.
Wow.
And eat quite a bit of it. Not all of it, but quite a bit of it. Therefore,
right. You had your cake and ate it too.
Yes. And I gained weight. It wasn't excessive, but I did put on some extra pounds because I wasn't exercising. But I realized I didn't feel good at being a little heavier. So I went back to exercising, and I'm exercising about 3 or 4 times a week. And I walk long distances. Well, for me, it's a long distance, like 2 miles, 2.5 miles. And I feel better. And that makes a big difference, because being, not exercising actually was making me I wouldn't say depressed, but maybe just a little not as perky as I usually am. So that has made a big difference, just going back to my exercise routine. And that makes me feel a lot better and healthier too, because I have a family history going back to my grandparents, where the high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, and I didn't want to fall into that category. So I'm trying to do everything possible to avoid falling into that category.
Yeah, Jen, you mentioned family history, and before I get to you, Laurie, so please unmute your mic, and if you guys can keep your mics unmuted unless something's going on behind you, we would appreciate it. I want to know, how does family history play into your thought process about weight? And I want to ask the 2 younger ladies, because I'm wondering, are you conscious about that?
Would you like me to answer, or you want to ask the 2?
Well, you can answer it, and then I'd like the 2 younger members of the panel to answer it.
Yes, regarding family history. Well, going back to my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, she was a diabetic, and she was a non-compliant diabetic, meaning she didn't follow the rules and regulations. So she ended up being a double amputee. Wow. Even though she was able to get around the house and able to motivate and encourage people, she still was a double amputee who continued to smoke cigarettes, wow. The unfiltered cigarettes. So I knew that was a very dangerous path to go down, and I did not want to do that. So fast forward, I started to, exercise, as time went on and I got older, exercise and maintain a healthy diet. I'm sure we'll probably talk about diet
Yeah,
a little bit later
absolutely.
on. But that makes a big difference. And it's important for people to know their family history, to ask those questions, ask Big Mama, ask
Yeah,
Grandma. It
yeah.
makes a big difference. It does play a role in certain outcomes, but certain things can be prevented as well. Following exercise and diet regimens makes a big difference.
Yeah. What about you, Courtney and Nikki? Can you guys chime in on the family history thing? Are you really conscientious about it? Are you, like Jen said, asking those questions at 20 and 30?
Yes, my mom actually is diabetic, and she's worked very hard to manage it a lot better. But I think for me personally speaking, growing up when I was in my 20s, I was diagnosed with quote unquote pre-diabetes. But since I wasn't officially diabetic, I didn't take it seriously back then as well as I should have.
Mhm.
But family history now means more than anything because of COVID, and from what we've learned about how with people with underlying health conditions and how negatively they have responded to the virus. So
Yeah. What about you, Nikki? Are you conscious about it now at 20?
I'm fairly conscious, maybe not as much as I could be. I know more about one side of my family history than the other. And that's something that I definitely need to research more, and maybe will soon.
Yeah, because the fact that you say, you're into fitness, you're healthy, you're doing that. One of the things that I say this all the time that is just, I don't even know a great big word to say about it. It's just unfair, just plain old unfair that you could be doing all the right things, but because your third cousin or your grandmother's uncle's cousin's side had something, you could get it too. So that's why that thing is so important. Laura, if you can take yourself off mute, and we would love for you to join the conversation. Can you tell me what your, as a 64-year-old woman, what your journey with weight and exercise has been, physical health?
Sure, no problem. When I was younger, in my teens, I started to gain weight. And back in those days, there wasn't a lot of focus on exercise and health. That was back in the 60s, 70s. And now, programs for women are just, you see them all the time. But back as a teenager, it wasn't, something that we had, there was no focus on it. But as I got older, and I had my family, my weight fluctuated back and forth. The stay-at-home mom syndrome. I would, stay in pretty much casual clothing, and you don't really notice the weight going up or down. And they just, and every kid, I had 20 pounds after, so again, the focus, because I didn't learn at a young age about health and weight.
Yeah.
It was hard for me, during my, the years I was raising my family. However, now that I'm at this part of my life, I do take a lot of time out to do activities. I am retired, but I am working and I'm active in other ways. But yeah, it's been a roller coaster.
Yeah. How is it at this point at 64, restarting or starting a exercise regime, a eating healthy regime? How difficult or easy has that been for you?
Right now, it's hard for me, but pre-COVID, I was on a diet plan, and I had lost 40 pounds, and I had gained it right after COVID during lockdown. So it's hard. It's very hard to maintain it at this age, but I know that I have to keep active. I have to keep doing.
Yeah.
And my choices have to be better.
Yeah. In It Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. I'm Tre Tailor, and I'm joined by an amazing panel of women as we talk about women's health issues. Lori, you said that you realize it's important now. And I want to go around the room. Why is it important to you, Nikki? Why is your health important to you in your 20s?
I just find that when I'm not eating well, when I'm not walking, exercising, that I don't do well in other parts of my life, and I kind of just feel unbalanced. And everything else goes way better when I've got that stuff in check.
Yeah. Are you conscientious now about the fact that you are making choices that will directly affect you when you get to Vanessa's stage in life?
That's not really what I'm thinking of. It's more of, I feel it in the day to day. I feel better, which maybe is, you could have guessed that answer for me being in my 20s.
Yeah, and that's why I'm asking you, because, I want to know from you and from Courtney even, and maybe even Nicole, 20, 30, 40, are you thinking about, are you thinking about, to get to 64, I've got to make some right choices today?
Really, it's just to feel better tomorrow, to feel better today in the office, doing my work.
Yeah. Well, girl, 40 years of 40 tomorrows will be when you get to 64 years old. What about you, Courtney?
Yes. My health simply means that I'm happier. Like, there was a time in my life where I wasn't the happiest that I could have been, but now that I actually put conscious effort into it, I'm a lot happier.
That's good.
But also, Black don't crack. We have Angela Bassett. We have all those wonderful women who are Black goddesses. And I mean, if they are at their certain ages and they're looking the way that they look, my God, I have something to live for. So
yeah. But those folks and work at it. They work at it. You got to work at it, right? Nicole, what do you think?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of different reasons why health is so important to me. I think one of my favorite sayings is, oftentimes we don't prioritize our health until we lose our health. And so not only am I a doctor, so I can tell you all the stuff I read in school, but I can also tell you what I've lived in my life. So I also have a chronic disease. I have multiple sclerosis. I have not been able to walk at some times. My husband was carrying me to the bathroom. I was on a walker. I couldn't walk. And so I found that losing weight, and it's not just about the weight. I want to harp on that too. It's not just about the weight, but getting healthier, eating an anti-inflammatory diet, eating more fruits and vegetables, eating things that grow from the ground and not so much processed foods, make me feel better in my body. Exercising daily, it's a way of, Ms. Jen, you were talking about that. You feel better, because you're releasing endorphins and you feel better. It sits on that pleasure center in our brains. And so we feel better when we exercise. We feel better when we're eating a healthy diet. Listen, y'all, I love tomatoes, but I've also found that tomatoes are inflammatory for me. So if I eat tomatoes, my joints are going to hurt. I feel bloated. I feel yucky. So guess what? I love them, but I avoid them or I limit them, And so health for me is what's important, not only to teach my kids, but also so that I can feel better and so that I can keep going.
Yeah. We're talking about women's health today on Coping with COVID. I'm Tre Tailor. We're here with Dr. Nicole Edwards, Jen Mitchell, also Lori Rowe, Nikki King, and Courtney Brightheart. And these ladies are 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, respectively. And we're talking about what women go through at these various ages and how we can do, like Courtney said, make it to Lori's age and still look and feel great, because I think we do want a long life. Dr. King said longevity is great, but what does it look like? Do we want to be, or don't we want to be old and healthy? Don't we want to be old and feel good and look good and be able to play with our children and grandchildren and do all of those things? You don't want to just exist, and the choices that we make so much difference. Nicole mentioned food, and you talked a little bit about that too, Jen. Are you conscious about what's good to you and what's good for you and what's not good for you?
Yes, absolutely. You know, Trey, your body is a temple. You only have one body, right? So you put in healthy nutrition and uh, nourishment, that's going to be better for you. You'll be more productive as a result of that. So if you eat to live and that live to eat, then that makes all the difference. So um, definitely the vegetables, the fruits, priority, you know, as well as lean meats. That's going to be very important too. Chicken and fish. I know you're a vegetarian.
I am.
Yes. So that's fantastic. And that makes a big difference as well. But I'm definitely always trying to think about healthy eating. And years ago, when I was in my 20s, like Nikki, I used to eat ice cream every single day. Haagen-Dazs. It probably was Chunky Monkey, but anyway. Oh, that was
And you
maybe
were
Ben and
Chunky
Jerry's.
Monkey because you was eating it, right?
But you know what? I was able to burn those calories when I was younger.
Oh,
so I
that's
never,
right. That's
even
right.
though I was eating a lot of ice cream in my 20s, right? Those were my early 20s. I was in college. I was burning those calories. So I actually did not gain a lot of weight. It's interesting. But then fast forward, now I'm in my 50s. I cannot tolerate the lactose. So it's not extreme, but I definitely don't do well after eating ice cream. So I have to go to frozen yogurt or just regular yogurt.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that makes a difference.
Yeah, you mentioned my being a vegetarian. I am, but you know, you can be an unhealthy vegetarian. There are several people who, I mean, that just means you don't eat meat. That doesn't mean you're eating anything good, you know? So I just want to caution everyone. I don't think that's me, but I mean, I love a chocolate chip cookie, but you know, I don't have them for dinner. But so listen, so we just have to make, definitely those right choices. I want to ask, and this is food, but it also goes into our next topic, which is mental health. We have an emotional relationship with food, I think, as people, but I think particularly as women. Do you think so, Lori? Have you had an emotional relationship with food, and if so, what and why? You mentioned that you picked up some weight during COVID.
Yes. When I get stressed, or if I thinking about a problem I have to solve, and I'm at home near the refrigerator, I spend a lot of time in that office. Yes, I do have
an emotional
connection with it. And my father was that way, and I see the pattern, because when he didn't have any extracurricular activities, but I would always see him in the kitchen and stuff. And so I find myself doing the same thing. And to break the pattern, I need to just reach for that glass of water.
Or a carrot, or an orange, or an apple.
Apple, yes.
Yeah.
So having said all that, though, I am looking forward to working with Motocross King Business Academy and their well-being program that's coming up. Good. So that's exciting. That kickoff is November 1. So having said that, it's been a pleasure talking to you ladies. I have to run, but I just wanted to say thank you, and great opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Lori, so much. Lori Rowe, Assistant Director of MOTA Communications. Thank you for telling us about that November event. If you have a flyer or something, we would love to share it so that we can get other people involved. You want to talk about it just a little bit, Lori, before you leave?
Sure. November 1, we are kicking off MICPA Business Wellbeing, where we're going to have like a big open house, and we're going to have lots of activities and things. And we are starting the program, and this program is partnered with DHEC, so it's really going to be exciting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to joining.
Great. Great. Thank you, Lori Rowe with Mota Enterprises. We're going to continue our conversation with our multi-generational panel on women's health. Sharita Thomas she says that sometimes parenting incorporates eating habits, good or bad. So, what you, and you know, but before we get to that, because thank you, Sharita, for your question, because I do want to ask you guys who have kids, how has that affected you? But we're going to go back to Courtney and Nikki to finish out the conversation about emotional eating. Are you tied to food through your emotions? Courtney, you're shaking your head.
Yes, definitely. Whenever I've noticed a fluctuation in the scale, even though like I try not to rely on the scale as much as possible, but whenever like I see like a major increase, there's been something that has been going on that, you know, I couldn't emotionally or mentally handle. And so I've noticed that the scale has actually increased. And so the last time something like that happened actually was this year in March. And as soon as I realized what was going on, I made an appointment to talk to my therapist as quickly as possible. So.
Oh, that's great. That's great that you were conscientious about it. I think that makes all the difference. And, you know, when we come back from break, I'm going to come to you, Nikki, in a minute. I just do want to talk a little bit more about what we're doing. You know, it's one thing to recognize. It's one thing to have an issue. It's another thing to recognize it. And then to go to the third step to do something about it is so huge. What about you, Nikki? Are you an emotional eater?
I think it's normal. I think it's normal to that emotion is tied to food for sure. And it's all about balance for me because I do want eating is emotional. We love food. I love eating. So it's finding the balance of it. I don't want to I'm not going to be able to just follow a strict, that has to be balance. Finding all the things that I like within a plan. Of course, emphasizing fruits and vegetables and not obsessing, because that's also a problem. Maybe is obsessing too much about diet or food and not enjoying it. So I've struggled with that in the past. So.
And how did you overcome it?
I'd say it's daily. It's finding help. It's finding resources, people you can talk to about it who are experienced and have knowledge, knowing that it's not something that you have to deal with by yourself. There's professionals. There's a lot of people out there who can help.
Yeah, that is.
I agree.
Nicole King is in her 20s and a community engagement coordinator at SCDHEC. Courtney Brightheart is in her 30s. She's a research and planning administrator. Dr. Nicole Edwards is a 42-year-old general practitioner here in Columbia, South Carolina. And Jen G. Mitchell is in her 50s. She is a healthcare advocate and also a chiropractor. We're talking today about women's health. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about emotional health. We'll talk about how COVID has affected each of these women. We'll also talk about if we are comfortable talking to each other and to others about what's going on with us, the pressures that women have as far as clothing and weight and parenting. We will talk about parenting too, and also sexual health. How does a woman's age have anything to do with that? All of that and so much more coming up next on Coping with COVID. I'm Tre Tailor. You're watching Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina. We'll be right back.
You can eat what's good to you and good for you, too.
Ooh, yes.
Get the Dash for Southern Soul cookbook free. All you have to do is ask. It's packed with delicious Southern-style recipes with a healthy twist.
Yummy.
You won't be able to taste the difference, but you will be able to feel the difference.
Yeah.
Inbox your email address to the In It Together or Tailor Made Productions Facebook page, and you'll get it straight to your mailbox. The Dash for Southern Style cookbook and a Coping with COVID face mask. From In It Together SC, the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina, and Coping with COVID.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
Computers, they're a part of our everyday lives. But when they're not working, they're an everyday problem. So call Computers Unique, your everyday solution. 803-351-5821. Is your computer running slow? Won't turn on? Do you need a screen replaced? Or maybe you just need another computer? Well, Computers Unique is your one-stop shop for all your computer needs. They have a wide variety of new and pre-owned PCs, Macs, and tablets. So call Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall. 803-351-5821. 803-351-5821.
Let Palmetto Painting Services take the worry out of your next home painting project. We can paint anything. Our business is about interior painting and exterior painting. We offer services for residential and commercial properties. Restore the life to your home with a fresh coat of paint from Palmetto Painting Services. References are available upon request. Give us a call at 803-546-4570 today. Let Palmetto Painting Services.
Hey there, I'm Tre Tailor. You're watching Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic, and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. Technology, it's beautiful when it works, isn't it? It is Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. We are actually streaming live on the In It Together Facebook page. Please go over there and hit like and share and follow so that you can not only watch Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can also get all of your great information about diabetes and diabetes prevention programs. We're also streaming live on the TaylorMade production page on Facebook. Please go over there again, hit like and share, and you can watch Coping with COVID every Wednesday at 2 p.m., but you can also get all of your COVID-related updates. We're also streaming live on YouTube. Please hit the subscribe button, and we have a presence on Instagram and on Twitter. We're talking about women's health today on Coping with COVID, and we have a multi-generational panel that is sharing information with us. Nicole King is in her 20s. She is a community engagement coordinator for SCDHEC. Courtney Brightheart is in her 30s. She's a research and planning administrator. Dr. Nicole Edwards is a 42-year-old general practitioner, physician in Columbia, South Carolina. And Jen G. Mitchell is in her 50s. She is a chiropractor and healthcare advocate. Thank you, ladies, again, so much for joining us again on Coping with COVID. When we left before the break, we were talking about emotional eating. And do you think that there is undue and extra pressure because we're women on how we look and how we present ourselves and what we eat and when we eat it? Do you feel that as women? Anybody can chime in.
I do, like very person speaking. When I was heavier, like the size that I am right now is actually the smallest that I've been in my whole entire life. So growing up, I wore a lot of plus size clothing, and the plus size fashion industry was not kind to me growing up. Like, right. I see you shaking you understand where I'm coming from, because there was a lot of clothing that
muumuus.
Yes, it was the muumuus. It was the shoulder pads. It was just cruel and
outfits.
Yes, the old lady outfits.
Yeah,
There was this dress I used to wear all the time, and somebody told me I looked like a bottle of Pepto-Bismol because
it was pink.
It was pink. It was not flattering to my curves and stuff like that. So it's my relationship now with clothing is a lot better, because at the same time, because the fashion, it wasn't flattering. I wasn't willing to go into a dressing room and actually try on clothing while I was at the store either. So now, I love shopping. Like, I have to try on clothes and stuff like that. So, but the way I feel right now, emotionally speaking, because I am happier, when you look good, you feel good. And I'm a firm believer of that. So,
yeah. What about you, Nikki? Do you feel like there's undue pressure on women in your 20s?
Yes, it's coming at you kind of from everywhere since we were kids, really. You didn't even realize it. Kind of everything you kind of read and saw was trying to make you think you had to look a certain way, or dress a certain way, look a certain way to buy products. So yeah, it took a while to kind of overcome that.
Yeah. Jen, what would you say to Courtney and Nikki in your 50s to a 20 and 30-year-old having gone through that and evolving?
Well, it sounds like they are conscientious about the things that they eat. You've heard the old adage, garbage in, garbage out. You are what you eat. So it's better to, at least when you shop, I would recommend buying healthier food items and a couple of treats here or there. I think we all like a couple of cookies.
Yeah. What about as far as how
like
women how women are looked at or unfairly, if you think that is the case? What would you tell your younger self or someone in their 20s and 30s, having been there, done that, and now, feeling better about what undue pressures that society puts on you?
Well, it's always good to feel, it's always important to feel good about yourself, because there are people who are maybe on a little bit heavier side, but they still feel good about themselves and they're confident about themselves, even though they are heavier. So
Yeah.
confidence is playing a key. Also, just positive thinking, a positive mental attitude is always important, because sometimes people are on the road to losing weight, and it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. So I would just say, be confident about yourself. It's important to think positive, encouraging words, and that actually helps, because I think that helps to prevent people from ladies from falling into maybe a bad place where they get depressed, and then there's more eating because they're depressed or feeling bad about themselves.
Yeah.
So
let me ask about the relationships, our relationships, and let's talk about friends first and then men. Are relationships important to you in your mental, physical, and emotional health, Nicole?
Absolutely. Relationships are very important for all forms of health, because, no man is an island, no woman is either. So it's very important that we have people around us who support us. I think it's also, it's key. I always tell my patients and tell people that we are one being, but we're made of three parts: mental, physical, and spiritual. And so we've got to have health and wellness in all of those areas. And part of that involves, in my book that I've written, the 12 Secrets of Divine Health, I talk about having your community, having people around you who support you. And so your relationships are very important. You want to make sure that you have somebody that's going to affirm you and who's going to build you up, and, somebody who loves you for you, no matter what you look like, no matter how you feel about yourself, and that can pour into you and make you feel good. But we also have to learn how to make ourselves feel good. I love the fact that we're in this body positivity world now, but we also have to balance body positivity, embrace the fupa, which maybe at 20 and 30, y'all don't know about the fupa yet, but once you have a baby, you may. But we also have to balance that with also being healthy and making sure that we're doing our best to be healthy. We know that, women, not just women and men, we carry estrogen in belly fat. And so, and insulin. And so if you've got more belly fat, then you've got more predilection towards diabetes. And so we want to make sure that we are healthy, but at the same time, while we're working towards that journey of health, that we are still loving ourselves and embracing ourselves.
Courtney and Nikki, are you guys married? Neither one. Are you feeling pressure to get married? Courtney said, yeah. Nikki's like, no.
Yeah.
Why not? Both of you. Go ahead, Courtney, because you're
like I feel like, okay, I take this, when I say I feel pressure to get married, for a long time, it was my own insecurities about why I'm not married at my age. I'm 33. Right. So one of the things that I actually did this past year is I actually deleted my whole entire Facebook page, because Facebook would kind of tell us who's getting married, who's having a baby and all those great things, and who's doing all those things. And I wasn't there, and I felt like there was something wrong with me for not being there yet. Right. But, at the end of the day, with a lot of work and a lot of self-love, I've had to learn that, I'm on my own journey, and my journey is taking time for for a reason. I'm a firm believer that if I had found somebody worth marrying at 27, 26, or 25, I'd probably be divorced by now, because there was a lot of stuff mentally and emotionally that I hadn't started addressing until
right. You're a different woman then. You're different.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, Nikki, you said no, you're not thinking about it. You don't feel pressure.
Thankfully, I don't. Recent grad with my MPH. That's been my focus. Thankfully, I've got a job. That's my focus now. It will come, I'm sure, but it's not.
So at Thanksgiving, nobody's saying no. Nobody's saying, when you gonna get married? You got your degree. You got your good job. Girl, we want grandkids. You're not hearing that yet?
There might be a question or two, but thankfully, nothing. Everyone will support what I'm doing right now. So
yeah, that's good. That's good. Superior Edwards has a question. He wants to know, don't we look at women different now? We've got women like Lizzo, Jill Scott, who men think are so sexy, and they're not the skinny women that the magazine used to push on us. So, Superior asked the question, but I don't know that we as women can answer the question. I think that's really more of a question for men. I think we look at each other differently, or do we? Do we accept each other better now? Nicole, you say
I
no?
think we accept each other better now, but I sometimes think that women are harder critics on other women than men are. And we do a lot of, we claim that we're doing a lot of trying to look good for the men, but really, honestly, that's my husband, y'all. My husband doesn't care. He didn't care when I was 373 pounds. He doesn't care now that I'm 215 pounds. You know what I'm saying? He said he liked the chubby me. He liked the fat me. He liked the overweight me. He likes me now. I am not losing weight to get a man. I got one 17 years, but I'm doing it for me to feel good. But I also know that there's other women, and the first thing we do, oh, look, she's so fat. Oh, who does she think she is? Oh, look at her. And so I don't know about it's just men that we do this for men. I think we do this because women can be pretty catty, mean girls too.
Yeah. What do you think, Jen? Are we mean girls? Are we worse on each other than men are on us?
Women can be a bit catty. That is true. So I would have to definitely agree with Dr. Nicole on that one. Yeah. But I think that, and actually a couple of good points came out. Some men do like full-figured women. They do like full-figured women. They think it's better. Sometimes in certain communities, you hear that, it's better to be thick. That person's thick, big boned, right? Yeah. And that's a thumbs up. That's good. But I think, and then women say, that sometimes it's looked at if someone is really heavy, severely obese, that, they don't take care of themselves. They're not keeping themselves together.
Yeah.
But that may, not even knowing the full story behind why that person has gained weight. Maybe it's a physical, mental, problem going on there. So, but I think that goes back to being trying to build up that level of confidence within. Because yes, people are going to say things all the time. Even if someone's thin, they say, that person doesn't eat. They're so skinny. What's wrong with them?
Yeah.
Is she eating enough? What's
I get
happening?
That all the time.
She must be stressed. Is everything okay? You ever hear that when someone says, hey, is everything all right?
Oh, I do.
But we're never satisfied. When I was bigger, people used to make fun of me because I was bigger. Now I've gotten smaller. I'm to the point where I want to be now, but people are like, oh my God, you're too small. You're too skinny. We can't please everybody. Nobody's ever going to be happy as long as we're happy with ourselves. Yeah. I think it's also really important of what are we teaching the younger generation? I look at my 6-year-old daughter and she's like, oh, mommy, my tummy is big. Who cares? Why do we care about how big our tummy is at 6 years old, right? And so that's why we need to bring so that the children are seeing more images of what beauty is,
right?
Different shades, different ages, different sizes. And so that once they understand that, then they can see that they can be beautiful in any way and they can start to accept themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicole, I was going to say that also, that I think it's so much more important for us to feel good about ourselves, because I think we radiate that positive energy so people can like us or accept us for who we are and how we are. We're talking to I guess I'm number 5 women about women's health today on Wellness Wednesday. In It Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday. Nicole King is in her 20s. Courtney Brightheart is in her 30s. Dr. Nicole Edwards is 42, and Jen G. Mitchell is in her 50s. I do want to talk about sexual health. We got about 10 more minutes, but we do have a question about how caregiving can affect a woman's health. Thank you so much for your question. Anybody caregiving? I mean, I listen, and here's the thing about caregiving to me is not only elderly parents, etc., but it's also kids. Because I mean, I'm at the point now where I now am caring for my 3 and 5-year-old grandchildren who I never thought at this stage in the game, I would be doing. And it is, I mean, I love them and they have been a joy and a light in my life, but it's different at this stage in the game. Jen and Nicole, I know you have too. I'm assuming Kelly and Courtney, you guys don't have any children? Right. And Jen, do you have children? Is anybody doing any caregiving?
I have done some caregiving. And yes, you asked me if I have children. Yes, I'm married. I have 1 husband and 3 sons. So 1 husband, 3 sons. But I did do some care. I have done some caregiving over the past few years, within the past 2 years or so, with sick family members. I would like to say that when a family member becomes sick and has to go through, say, chemotherapy or radiation treatment, surgery, that definitely takes a toll on the whole entire family, especially a close-knit family. And and then caring for someone who you normally see is vibrant and lively and maybe one of the pillars in the family, and now they're not able to do and say and encourage the way they usually do, and now you have to become the encourager. That definitely can take a toll. You have to find strength from within. Prayer definitely changes things, and reading the scriptures helped to sustain me through that period of time where I had actually 2 family members sick at the same time, very, very sick, to the point that we were just praying that they made it through their crisis and made it through that time. So,
yeah, Nicole, you said that you're doing some caregiving. How is it affecting your health?
It can take a toll. So I often say, who's caring for the caregiver?
Absolutely.
And as a caregiver, it's not just as a mom, right? You can be caring for your parents. You could be caring for your patients or your clients. You could be caring for your friends. I think a lot of times as women, we are nurturers. And so we're caring for lots of people all the time, regardless of if we have actual children that have come out of ourselves. A lot of times we are just mothering spirits and mothering souls. And so we're taking care of lots of people. I think a lot of times we forget to take care of ourselves.
Absolutely.
Self-care is not selfish, it's self-full, and it's so important, but it takes a toll on you mentally, on you physically, on you spiritually. And so you've got to remember to provide care for others. Here's what I tell people: you might be a super Wonder Woman, and that's great, but there are some times when you've got to take that cape off and just turn into Clark Kent. Okay? Because underneath that super Wonder Woman cape, there is still a person, and it's okay sometimes to just be a human being and not have to be the super Wonder Woman. So yeah, you don't always have to be the saving the world. Sometimes it's important to save yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Do you guys, Courtney and Nikki, recognize that you've got to take some time for yourself?
Oh yes, self-care, like at least once a month, like just taking like a day, and also to me, working out, that is a part of self-care, because there is like a mental and an emotional connection or an emotional balance that I get from working out.
Yeah. And Nikki?
And I think self-care can look different to different people or different days of the week. Like sometimes you need a bath and sometimes you need to like clean the house, and that kind of counts. Yes, I recognize it's important, and it's part of my part of the routine.
Yeah, because I think especially at 20s and 30s, you're just going, like you said, you wanted to get your master's. You know, Courtney, you was focusing on your career, move and losing weight and all of these things. And as Nikki said, you're not thinking about 40 years from now. You're thinking about today. What am I doing today? And then when you look up, you are 50, and you feeling the aches and pains, and you realize, dang, and you can't go backwards, So, that's why I wanted to know from a mind of a 20 and a 30-year-old, and please do be conscientious about the choices you make today and how they affect you tomorrow, so that you can be that Angela Bassett, Courtney, that you talked about. We've got a couple of more minutes, and I do want to talk about sexual health, because sexual health is important. And I think we feel like only men can enjoy being intimate, and intimacy should be, I think, just as enjoyable for women as it is for men. And I just want to go around the room and ask you, how do you feel about your sexual health? Is that important for you, Nikki, at 20?
Yes. I don't know exactly where to start with that one, but of course, yes, it is. I mean, even just making sure you're regularly going to the doctor as a young person and getting in that routine, it's really important.
Yeah. Courtney, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, for me, it's important too. And a lot of that has to do with the work that I used to do previously. I used to be a tester for HIV. And so, I had to be the one to initiate some of these conversations with people who have never had conversations about their sexual health before. So it was, in some ways, I was vicariously learning through them about the do's and the don'ts, about how I don't want to live my life, or I don't want to do certain things without protection, just based upon what their stories were.
Yeah. In your 40s and 50s, is sexual health still important? Is it still necessary, Dr. Nicole and Jen?
It's so very important. I think a lot of times we think of like that movie, what was it, The Color Purple, where he did his business on me. No, as women, we need to be enjoying sex as well. And we need to understand how sex works. We need to understand our bodies. Sometimes we need to know what feels good to us before we can share that with a partner. And we need to make sure that we have a partner who we can communicate and share that with, who we can be open with. It's good for your mental health and well-being. It's even good for your physical well-being. We do know that there are so many benefits from making sure that you are being fulfilled sexually. And then also, it's really important to make sure that your hormones are being balanced, not just estrogen. We think of women, we got to have estrogen, but did you know women have testosterone too? And if our testosterone gets low, we can be fatigued, we can have low sex drive, we can not be as sharp mentally. And so we have to make sure that our hormones are intact and that we are intact sexually. Yes, very important.
Yeah. And after 50, Jen?
Well, it's still important. It's still important. As a married woman, it is still important. It's necessary, and it's part of building a strong marriage and a strong relationship. So, yeah. Absolutely. And
do you mind my asking? Is it still with as much frequency, maybe, as it was before?
I was going to say a joke about a chandelier, swinging from a chandelier, but I'm not going to say that joke. But anyway, well, basically, being in my 50s, I would say that no one's upset. I'll leave it at that. I'll drop the mic.
You handling your business, girl. Okay, then.
Trey, I think it's so important too, since we were just talking about caregivers, it's so important to understand that things ebb and flow. So as life can get hard, maybe that frequency goes down a bit, because if you're not in it mentally, then your body is not going to respond physically to anything. And so, but when you are feeling good and you have, sometimes fellas who are watching the show, sometimes if you could just help out with the dishes or picking up around the house, and your lady comes in, is like, that's one less thing I have to do. All of a sudden that drive goes right back up and they can respond accordingly.
Yeah. Dr. Nicole Edwards, she's 42. Jen Mitchell is in her 50s. Nikki King is in her 20s. And Courtney Brightheart is in her 30s. We also spoke with Lori Rowe, who was in her 60s. I want to mention that Vanessa Mota will actually be on the show next week talking about their diabetes prevention program. And of course, all of the other things that Lori mentioned, that they have a weight loss program and some other things that they're doing at Moda Enterprises. So please join the show next week. Ladies, I so appreciate your being open and honest and just, sharing your innermost thoughts and concerns about being a woman today on In It Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council's Wellness Wednesday. Well, my prayer is that this open, honest dialogue pique some hearts and minds and really start some conversations with women among each other and maybe even with their healthcare professionals and their families. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Coming up on Coping with COVID, don't forget that on next week, we do have some great shows coming up. To get these ladies out the studio. There you go. Hey, Courtney. All right. Coming up next on Coping with COVID. Hey, don't forget tomorrow, college athletes and the new mandate that they can now profit from their name and likeness. We are going to talk about that tomorrow. Friday, the South Carolina State Fair is coming back to the fairgrounds. Nancy Smith, general manager, is going to join us. Also, Dominion Energy is holding their college diversity conference, and we'll talk about that too. Listen, if you have a story or initiative that could help someone cope with COVID, please go over to the Tailor Made Production Facebook page and inbox us. We would love to feature your story on Coping with COVID. If you have a product or service that could help someone cope with COVID, the email address is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Please email copingwithtretailer@gmail.com. And we would love for you to be a proud sponsor, just like In It Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council. Also, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall, Palmetto Painting Services, Agape Counseling and Training Services, the Fifth Circuit Solicitor's Office, Attorney Byron Gibson, Palmetto Media Connections, and Javis Tax Services, along with the Comet Bus System. As always, I leave you with a reading from Jesus Calling. And on this day, September 29th, Jesus says, I am with you and all around you, encircling you in golden rays of light. I will always be with you. I will behold you face to face. Not one of your thoughts escapes my notice because I am infinite. I am able to love you as if I were you and we were the only ones in the universe. Isn't that a beautiful thing that Jesus says to us? Walk with me in intimate love steps, but do not lose sight of my majesty. I desire to be your closest friend, yet I am also your sovereign Lord. I created your brain with capacity to know me as friend and lover simultaneously. The human mind is the pinnacle of my creation, but so few use it for its primary purpose, and that is knowing me. I communicate continually through my spirit, my word, and my creation. Only humans are capable of receiving me and responding to my presence. You are indeed fearfully and wonderfully made. That's your Jesus Calling for today, September 29th. I'm Tre Tailor. Hey, thank you so much for joining us on Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina. Until the next time, I wish you peace, abundant blessings. Take care, stay well, be blessed. Get your COVID vaccine, and don't forget to wear your mask over your nose and under your chin. Thank you.
Coping with COVID and In It Together present Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina and DHEC's Division of Diabetes and Heart Disease Management.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.